What is up, guys? This is All Day Day 1 on the PS4, and I'm going to be giving you a build breakdown for Cosmic Trials for Scarlet Witch. The reason why it's different for a Cosmic Trials build versus like a general build, um, because she has two abilities in her general build that I have for her that you can't use in Trials. So let's go ahead and get started. For her traits, her two main attributes are energy and intelligence. She gains a 3% crit chance automatically. Her chaos energy, or her primary resource is chaos energy. Chaos energy regenerates or generates when you deal chaos damage. So anything you do, or whatever, basically deals chaos damage. So you'll be gaining chaos energy over time from those, or on hit. When chaos energy has been filled, trigger chaos energy. Chaos overload effects. Powers can spend chaos energy to change probability of random effects, ensuring the maximum possible outcome occurs. Chaos energy will not be generated, meaning you won't gain any chaos energy over time, even when you're in combat. As long it only generates chaos energy when you deal damage. For defensive, her defensive box, I guess. Reality bending, she gains health on hit, she gains defense rating multiplier and deflect rating multiplier plus 20%, defense rating and deflect rating plus 600 base, or base 600. For her abilities, I'm using Bouncing Hex, Beast from Beyond, Chaos Warp, Iron Maiden, Chaos Shift, Reality Implosion, Ravenous Binding, and Bewildering Hex. So with what Bewildering Hex is it confuses your enemies and makes them deal damage to each other, and that lasts for 6 seconds. If you do it on a boss, I think it only lasts on them for like 2 seconds or so, or 1 second. Sometimes it doesn't even do it. Especially if you have an enemy that has crowd control immunity, then it's not going to work on them. But none of the enemies in Trials do have a crowd control immunity. Well, also what I noticed on like the giant Hulkbusters, mechs, robot guys, um, it doesn't last as long either. Probably like 3 seconds at the most, I'd say. Sometimes it does last for the whole 6 seconds, and it's nice because they'd be shooting the mortars at each other. So that's what I really like about Bewildering Hex. It's probably the best option for Trials because they deal 2000% more damage to each other. Ravenous Binding, you're going to need this for any builds you run with because it heals you and it immobilizes enemies for 3 seconds, making them stay in one spot for 3 seconds. And their movement speed and attack speed are reduced by 50%. And with the Chaos effect, you have a 25% chance for affected enemies to spread the effect to up to 3 nearby enemies when they are defeated. So when you defeat an enemy, it's like a nice poison spread that it's like a leeching ability. It just leeches right onto the next. I don't know if it continues to do that. If it does, then that would be really nice. If it doesn't, then that's completely fine, I guess. Reality Implosion, damage 9575 to 14,362. The thing I like about this ability is it is a nice AoE burst damage, but I normally use it just to pull my enemies in to the center, because when you can do that, you have so many different options of what you can do. You can bind them to the ground, you can use a Bewildering Hex, you can confuse all of them while they're all in the center. You can confuse them all, making it easier to confuse multiple enemies, rather than, because the Bewildering Hex it's not a small AoE, I'd say it's like mid-size, like a medium-sized AoE ability. But yeah, so with the chaos effect for this, you have a 25% chance for an enemy to explode after a short duration. Explosion damage would be 2443 to 3664. Iron Maiden or Chaos Shift, the chaos effect is 15% chance to instantly refresh its cooldown, so that's always really nice to have. Iron Maiden, what Iron Maiden does, it's kind of like deflecting ability, except you don't deflect any attacks. You still take the damage, but whenever this is an AoE ability as well, and doesn't have a limit on how many enemies you can affect with it. Whenever an enemy does any attack, they take 17,608 to 26,412 damage every attack they deal. So if you have a enemy that's doing, I don't know how it works on the machine gun guys. I think it's just probably per second because they spam their Gatling gun or machine gun. If it did it per shot, then that'd be awesome. I don't think it is though. But it's an 8-second duration and 4-second cooldown. Chaos effect for this is 5% chance to make affected enemies enraged, taking double the damage from Iron Maiden, and gaining 30% movement speed. You gain 30% movement speed. Chaos Warp. This is a nice AoE. I would consider this like your signature. It's a 20-second cooldown. It lasts for 4 seconds for the channel time. It absorbs 100% of the damage, so you take no damage at all. 1400. Well, that's with the talent. Without the talent, you do take, I think, 50% damage. Not sure, but you also gain healing on hit. You gain 1400 heal per hit, and the hits. Since it's a big AOE ability, you'll gain 1400 per enemy that you hit. So that's really nice. You can heal almost instantly with that ability. Next one is Beast from Beyond. With this ability, it makes your enemies vulnerable. They take 25% more chaos damage. There's no chaos effect for this ability, so you don't need to spend chaos energy on it. What is it? So it deals damage twice. It hits up to 2 targets at a time, and it lasts for 6 seconds. Just because it does damage to 2 targets at a time doesn't mean it'll do damage to the same 2 targets. If there's 8 enemies within the range of this AoE, it'll deal damage to 2 of those 8, and then it'll switch to the next 2, next 2. Sometimes it'll go to the first 2, then the next 2, and then it won't even hit the other 4. It'll just go back to the next 2. So it's random. It hits random to enemies that are within the AoE. Bouncing Hex is probably the best option because one, it has a higher damage than the other. It has a higher damage output than Chaotic Hex is better for single target. Bouncing Hex is better for AoE. I mean, you can choose between the two. It doesn't really matter because you can still hit multiple enemies. You can hit up to 5 enemies with this, but it only, if you hit up to 5 enemies, it'll do 1 bolt on one enemy. If you have 1 target, it'll do 1 of 5 bolts on an enemy. So that's really nice to have for a single target. But Bouncing Hex is the best option, better option because it hits multiple targets at once. Especially good for Cosmic Trials because you have multiple enemies anyways. So yeah, onto the talents. You're gonna go with Further the Chaos or Bad Luck. Bad Luck increases the damage by 100% for Iron Maiden. You gain a 3% dodge chance and a 3% critical hit chance. I don't think those are passives. I think, or like just a general passive. I think those are passives that happen when you activate Iron Maiden. So you gain a 3% dodge chance and 3% crit chance when you activate Iron Maiden. Further the Chaos is really nice for your primary ability, which is going to be Chaotic Hex. Not Chaotic Hex, the Bouncing Hex. It gains a chance to create 1 additional Bouncing Hex, so that way instead of hitting up to 6 enemies, what was the limit? Yeah, 6 enemies. It'll hit up to 7 enemies. So that's a really nice option. Reality Shred is also a really good option to have for Beast from Beyond. You're not gonna have Chaos Rift. It's good for Beast from Beyond. Makes the enemies 5% more vulnerable. So they're already 25% vulnerable. it'll make them 30% more vulnerable, so that's really nice to have. So any of these three are good options. um, Chaos Ascendant is the best option here because you you deal 200% more damage and you become invulnerable. That's how you gain that 100% damage absorption. And what is it? Chaos Overload? No, Chaos Warp no longer gains chaos energy, so it's on a 20-second cooldown now instead, which is why I considered it as a signature, because it's just as strong. Well, not just as strong, but it's strong and it has a nice bonus for it. Positive Outcome is the only one you would want to go for in general. You don't need balance and you don't need command chaos, because positive outcome is going to heal you and nearby allies. You're not going to have any allies in trials unless you're doing couch co-op and you have your friend playing on a second controller. Then that would help as well, because you'd be able to heal him or her. But this is going to be your healing ability. And yeah, power overwhelming, you're not going to be using unmake reality, so this doesn't matter right now. Chaos Magic Restoration and Chaos Magic Ruinous Flux are your two good options. I went with Restoration because I mean I'd rather get more health be able to gain more health back rather than deflect chance, I guess. I mean either or is good. They both help. Withering Agony is nice too, but I just think the damage is pretty low. 1254 mental damage twice per second for 5 seconds, so you're looking at like 2400 2500 damage over time for 5 seconds. So I was just like, nah about that. My synergies, the ones I would say that are good and not good. So Angela's, this is a good one to have. Ant-Man's not good. Beast, his intelligence is good, but you don't need melee. Black Panther, his movement speed helps. Melee you don't need. Black Widow, melee you don't need, but ranged you do. So Black Widow's is a good option. Blade's a good option. Captain America's is a pretty solid option. Not necessarily good or bad. You don't necessarily need it, but deflect is one of your defensive stats. So Captain Marvel, I'm not sure if energy damage is what. I don't think Scarlet does any energy damage, so I wouldn't say you would need any of Captain Marvel's synergies. Colossus always helps. Cyclops always helps. Whenever you kill an enemy, you gain energy damage or chaos energy. Daredevil's always helps. It's always gonna have this. I would probably say need anyways. Damage versus the normals and elites. I would say this one helps because you do with the reality implosion, I think that's what it's called. With the chaos energy you use from it, it has a 25% chance to deal explosive damage. So Deadpool's explosive damage would help for that. And the health regen, Doctor Strange, you definitely want to have this because he's the only one that has magic power damage synergy, and you are all magic based. Gambit is good for his energy attribute. You don't need Ghost Riders. Hawkeye's is really good to have for the crit damage and movement speed. Hulk's is really good to have for the extra health. Iceman's you don't need. Iron Fist, you don't necessarily need it. The health regen is always nice though. Iron Man's I would say need for the ranged but not the energy. Jean Grey's just the range but not the psychic. Kitty Pryde is a solid choice because it has both of your defensive stat multipliers. So Luke Cage is always a nice one to have for the durability and the defense rating. Magic is a good one to have for health on hit, but you don't need to summon. Moon Knight is a high risk, high reward type of deal. Not necessarily high reward because you're only getting 10% damage buff while you're under 50% health, but you know, it's your choice. Nova is a pretty solid choice for movement speed. Movement speed is always nice to have, and dodge rating. Psylocke you don't need. Punisher's ranged helps. You don't need the gun damage. Rocket Raccoon, you don't need his summon power. Scarlet, you need her damage over time. She-Hulk, you don't yeah, this would help. This would definitely help. The health and the health regen. Spider-Man's helps. Squirrel Girl, I would say need for the boss damage for every character in general. Star-Lord, I would say not need, but helps for the chaos energy. Don't need storms. Don't necessarily need doors. The defense rating helps. War Machine, I would say need for the extra chaos energy and fighting. Everyone can benefit from fighting. Wolverines, you don't need any claw damage. My power, or my infinity powers, or gems, I went with 2 into energy and 8 or 4 into strike through on power gem. But if you don't have 25 gems, or if you just don't want to put any points into your attributes, I would go with one of these 3. So restoration, inner resilience, or against all odds. I would actually go with one of these 2. I mean, against all odds is nice, but you don't gain, I don't think you gain healing regen until you're out of combat, I believe. I'm not 100% sure. But with health on hit, it's nice, and you gain, with restoration, you gain more healing over time. Or not over time, you just gain more healing in general, so this is a really nice one to have too. So one of these 3 are probably the best options for her. Maybe micro warps. I would actually no, I wouldn't go with that. Temporal loophole, attack speed and movement speed always helps. Or have more brutal damage. That one as well always helps. Especially if you have high brutal chance and your stats are all really nice, then this would help out your damage output. In my inventory, my gear, I have 2 cosmics and 3 purples, 1 blue or light blue and 1 green. My cosmic glove, my chest, legs, boots, helmet, or whatever utility, my ring, and my amulet. I went with, the reason why I have a green one is because it's the only medallion I had at the moment that could benefit, or I could benefit for it with Scarlet Witch. When you hit with a magic power, gain 150 health. So Malekith's medallion is always really nice to have. You can get this from Lower Asgard, farming Malekith, or you can just go, yeah, I think you can also fight Malekith during the patrols. Pretty sure he spawns out in there as well. For your legendary item, I went with the Warlock's Eye. It's probably the best option for both, well, for all 3, Magic, Doctor Strange, and Scarlet Witch. With Magic, I went with the Trident though, because she's more for a summoner than
perhaps a little
anything else, in my opinion. Well, not just that, I use her for ranged as well. Doctor Strange, you can use him as a summoner, but I would probably use the Warlock's Eye as well. My catalyst is not that great at all. I don't have any, well, it's not great at all in my opinion. I don't have anything that I can really benefit with medkit. I mean, the movement speed is nice. 35% movement speed for 5 seconds when you use the medkit is nice to get out of trouble or whatever if you don't have any more dashes. But the talents you're wanting to look for in the green part is whenever you use a medkit, you gain 25% health regen and resource. And then in the mythical bonus, the purple, you want to get the whenever you use a medkit, you gain 5,000 health. So those are really nice ones to have. I think I have it in, okay, so in my accessories, the headpiece, whatever, I have, when you use the medkit, your medkit heals you for 20% more health. So that's a nice one to have as well for on your headpiece. So if you can get that, get that. For my relics, the 2 relics I would suggest using is Relic of Gibberim or Relic of Xander. Relic of Xander giving you more range damage and everything you do is ranged. Relic of Gibberim gives you more chaos energy and that always helps. My artifacts, I'm using Advanced Amulet of Agamotto Agamotto, Advanced Crimson Crystal of Sidorak, and Cybernetic Implant. Um, Advanced Amulet of Agamotto, so that one gives you intelligence, magic damage, damage rating to magic powers. When your health drops below 50%, you negate half of all incoming damage for 10 seconds, maximum of 6,000 damage taken. You gain defense rating and attack speed. For Advanced Crimson Crystal of Sidorak, you gain health, damage rating to force powers, 2% chance when you hit to create a shield, which absorbs 6320 damage, 30-second cooldown, you gain strength. Cybernetic Implant, you gain chaos energy. When you drop below 15% max chaos energy, you gain 1500 damage rating to energy powers and 100 crit hit rating. You can honestly switch out Cybernetic Implant for Scarlet of Sidorak, because that means you'd have 3 different shields options. You can have this one when you're being attacked. When you're being attacked, you have a 7% chance to create a shield that absorbs 5200 damage, and you gain 13.3 chaos energy when you pick up an orb. Or you can use Tomb of Oster. You get 1000 health and you gain 2000 magic damage while above 90% max health. I will be using this one probably for my patrols and stuff, because I mean that's the magic damage is really nice. But yeah, so let's go ahead and look at all these abilities, the different abilities. So Square is the beast from beyond. What it does is, you can see it's hitting multiple enemies within this whole circle. Then you have the binding ability, so it makes all these enemies bind to the ground. What's it called? Just completely forgot the word. What the heck? Immobilized. So the enemies are immobilized for 3 seconds. And then you have Iron Maiden. So with what Iron Maiden does is, you can see all the enemies that are marked. The enemies that are marked are going to be taking damage whenever they attack you. You have Reality Implosion. What that does is a nice burst damage, and it also pulls enemies in. Obviously it's not going to pull the dummies in. And then you have the ability that, what's it called? Bewildering Hex. It's not gonna make your dummies attack each other because they can't, but what it looks like is, it looks like this. So these are the enemies right here. These 5 are gonna be the ones that would be attacking each other or attacking these 3. And then you have this giant nice circle thing. I forgot what the ability is called as well. So I guess there would be kind of a rotation. What I normally do is I use my implosion, my reality implosion, pull them all in, and then I use the binding to keep them all in one spot. Then I use my bewildering hex to make them all attack each other, and then I use the beast from beyond, and I use the Iron Maiden as well. So I use all those pretty quick so that they're all working at the same time. So it would kind of be looking like this, and then I would just spam my my X, what's called the bouncing hex, because with bouncing hex it hits multiple enemies all at once, so that's really nice to have. So yeah, that's basically it for my Cosmic Trials build for Scarlet Witch. If this build helped you out at all, just go ahead and leave me a like and whatnot, or comment, or message me. The thing is, also, you gotta make sure to test this build out for yourself as well. Don't just expect to go into a trials run and beat it the first time. You want to test it out, get a good feeling of it, a feel of it through training room a few times, and go through it a few times in your trials. Because for me, I didn't complete trials with this build until my 4th try. So my third or my fourth try with this build, but I tried other builds. It took me about 6 or 7 tries until I decided to change it up. So yeah, that's basically it. You know, this is all day any day one, and have a I don't know what I'm saying. My brain's going dead right now. But yeah, have a good night, have a good day, good afternoon, and peace.